everyone. It's Ryan from the Rocky Mountain Cigar Show here, brought back to you inside from the Smokin' Studios. Thank you so much for joining us for yet another. Every single time I try to do something creative I just need to put together a damn script for the beginning of this thing, right? Because I always try to be creative or fronty or switchy, but there's a reason why everybody does the same intro all the time, and I just need to be much, much better at it. For any of you guys wondering who the hell the guy is next to me, you don't watch the show enough because Jon Schweitzer's on this show quite a bit. Was also on this show a couple weeks ago when we had Enrique of Matilda and the cigar, Matilde on the show. John's back to do his own brand, Lumen Cigars, as well as we're gonna have a little bit of fun, and we're gonna do a broker style episode as well. So what I mean by that is we're gonna kind of go through a day in the life of what it means to be a broker, and what the reality of that is versus what we all think it is. And John will tell you he sacrifices 18, 20, 22 hours a day sometimes, really only sleeping a couple to a few minutes a day, with how much he works. But
I practically walk uphill both ways in the snow. It's a terrible time.
So, but we're going to have a good time. We're going to go through that. But first, what we're going to do is bring to you guys some additional show stuff. So, La Aurora still has some cigars coming to me to get you guys out and send you everything. Don't worry. I have been told that they are landing in Florida and they will be shipped out to me ASAP. Again, thank you so much for bearing with me. Those who are still waiting, I really truly appreciate it, and very, very much appreciate it. So, all right, that's all the show. Well, it's all really kind of the show stuff we have. So it's always fun to have in studio, right? But I'm not gonna lie, it always kind of throws me off a little bit because I'm not used to bringing anybody in until I kind of do my spiel. And like this whole time I'm talking, I feel like I should be like expecting you to say something or chime in. So John, let's go ahead and kind of start with what are you smoking tonight, and what am I smoking tonight? And let's just kick off from there.
Uh, you're one of the first people smoking the Maduro. We will keep that a little secret, but it's coming in the next 6 or 7 months. So we'll keep that
Very
undisclosed. But it is Nicaraguan. You know I like the Nicaraguan stuff.
Oh yeah.
But I am working on some Dominican stuff too. So we got something in the works for everyone. Then I'm smoking the OG, one of the first batches of the Ikigai there.
I mean, you guys go back and watch that very first episode where John came on and we talked about the Ikigai. I was trying to show that band a little bit. There you go.
Yes, sir.
It's absolutely gorgeous band. And the Ikigai is made at
Aganorsa.
And he wears that loud and proud as he should.
Sir. Yes, sir.
Terrence turns a lot of brands down.
Hey, right on the side of the band, man. I got the Aganorsa. I love Aganorsa though. It's definitely one of the tobaccos that made me fall in love with smoking cigars.
Absolutely. I mean, who doesn't love Aganorsa? I think if you really, really, above and beyond going just legacy smokers, Aganorsa is a really easy one to turn the corner and find.
Yeah, man.
And for you to be able to get your first cigar, I mean, for them to pop your cherry in the cigar world, I mean, that says a lot because they don't do that.
Shout out to T.
T took his cherry.
Yeah. T's a good man. Terrence definitely took care of me. It's been huge help. Kyle's been awesome too, man. He's given me a lot of advice throughout the.
Now you're referring to Kyle Gillis of Warped.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep. He's been huge. Scott from
Huge.
Warped. What's that?
Huge.
Oh yeah, yes sir. Scott from Warped. I mean, these guys they've really just been great mentors for me. So
And that's kind of been a fun thing, you know, in learning your journey and kind of hearing about, you know, where you've been and where you've come from. But thank you so much, Steve Sack, for sponsoring the What Are You Smoking Tonight segment. Part of the show. It's really the only segment we do. Steve wanted to come onto the show, but he's like, I got to have more than just an ad. So we did a segment.
And speaking of brokering segment, Steve, let me broker your stuff out here.
Yeah. Yeah. Good luck.
Great cigars. You should definitely go buy some.
Yeah, good luck. I don't know how much he's looking to move from where he's working with.
Oh,
So
I know.
let's see here. All right, so I want to start with how much of Lumen do you want to kind of discuss or talk about before we jump into the broker side? Or do you want to pepper it through?
Whatever you want to do, man. I'm cool with whatever.
Okay, so one of the things that's always been interesting to me about kind of your journey in this business is, one, the extent of time you've been in this business is a lot, right? For your what, early 30s?
Yeah, 30.
Yeah, so early 30s.
Yep.
Barely scratching 30. You're
Yep.
still in the scratch and smell part of 30.
Yeah, I'm feeling old.
Yeah. So, but with that said, you've been in tobacco a decade.
Yeah. Yep.
And I don't think a lot of people, when they look at someone like you and they see you in a shop and they go, "Oh, well, this fucking kid, I've been smoking for 20 years." And you're like, "Yeah, but I've already been in this half of long as you've been smoking." So kind of start with your entry into tobacco, how it kicked off, and kind of what even got you to where you are now.
Yeah. So I mean, I think, going back in the day, when I first started working at a tobacco store, Tobacco Leaf down in Lakewood, it was nice to have a balance because I had an older gentleman that worked with me that was, he was like 60 something. Because I did get that a lot, especially, I mean, I look young now, but especially 10 years ago, I looked even younger. So
we have the pictures to prove it, guys. I'm not even kidding. Long hair.
We do.
Long hair.
Looked like Justin Bieber. But yeah, so, now I look, if I grow out my beard, I don't look as cool as this guy. I look like an Amish dude or Abraham Lincoln. But got into the cigar shop, and it was a nice balance because I would go in there and I did learn quick because I'm the type of guy that if I want to learn something, I'm going to hyper focus on it and I'm going to learn everything because I don't want to look like an idiot, but I also want to lead people to the right thing. And I wanted to facilitate a good experience with what I thought cigars were, which is what got me into cigars, was the experience and the community, and that's what I loved about cigars. So I wanted to continue to be able, for my generation, to continue the legacies of some of this, some of these ideals, because these places are disappearing, especially in states like Colorado.
And I think what helped in your journey so early on is that you did have an older guy.
Yeah.
So you didn't have the younger, hipper guy coming. You had a old school guy where it was just done differently.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And cigars were looked at differently.
They were, man. They were. And he also had a huge collection of cigars. He was able to show me a lot of cigars and kind of, educate me on stuff that most people that were smoking at that time wouldn't even have known about from like the 80s and the 90s and stuff. And then it was pretty cool because then guys would come in and there would be some of those guys that they would say, "Oh, dude, you look like you're 12 years old. What are you going to tell me about cigars?" And then Steve would come in and he'd be like, "Hey, man, he looks like he's 12, but he's probably forgot more than, than most of us know." And then all of a sudden, because they had the old guy sitting there telling them that, they'd be like, "All right, maybe this guy's decent." Then I'd give them a recommendation and they'd like it. And then they'd kind of build the trust. But at the same time, I think with a lot of it, it was just, dude, you had to battle you just had to display the knowledge, man, and learn enough to where you were providing an experience that people liked, and then just it grew from there.
So how long you floated around to a few different shops here in town, ended up back at Tobacco Leaf.
Yeah,
So how long were you working the shops before you became a broker?
for about 7.5 years.
Do you think you could have been a broker earlier?
Oh yeah,
You could
I
have.
got offers to be a broker. I may have just not known. I may have not known the right route to go because Michael Watman, who was another, like, he was a mentor broker
Mm-hmm.
to me. And I kind of liked the way he modeled his brokerage, which was more boutique centric, which there wasn't really a lot of boutique brokers in this area. And he was kind of the first to do that. And so I watched him build it, and it was successful. But really, out here, you mostly just had the in-house rep,
Sure.
and that's what I was used to. So
Because Colorado, and I tell this to everybody, Colorado is an incredible legacy brand
yeah,
state.
it is.
It is because the legacy brands have the money to come out here and do the events the way Colorado wants you to do the events. And that's a hard part of being a broker in this state.
Exactly.
By the way, Michael Watman's a legend in this area for
Used to work
what
for
he's
Ashton for a long
for
time.
what he has done.
Worked for yeah, well, Trendsetters,
Hmm.
and then can't remember what it was before that, but it was multi brokerage too that he
Hmm.
did, like Zycar and all kinds of stuff. But yeah, I mean, like, and I think really what it was like, a lot of the brands that offered me positions as a in-house rep, I
Hmm.
didn't really believe necessarily, like, they might have believed in me, man, but I wasn't believing in the Kool-Aid that they were putting out, and it was like the money's there and everything, but at the end of the day, we get into this industry in cigars or bourbon or whiskey or wine or all of these things that are, you get into them because it's a passion, man. And
Sure.
I don't want to drive around all day and sell somebody some shit that I don't believe in, man. And
Just to make the sale and get
yeah,
the
I
and
wanted it to come from the heart, and I want to be able. That's what I did in the store, and I wanted to be able to deliver that same experience when I was selling to a store.
see, that's why I think oftentimes boutique brokers do exceptionally well because they, again, it's not so much that you care more, but you have more belief in what you, because you hand pick.
Yep.
This is what most people don't know about brokers.
Yeah.
You can be all you can, and I know you're approached by dozens a month that you turn down. So would you say that being able to actually pick and choose who you work with has driven your, not just your success, but driven your drive to succeed because you can play with all the people you want to and nobody you don't want to?
Yeah, yeah, man, and that's the thing too, is like, as a broker, especially in this territory, there's certain expectations, but this isn't this territory for most
It's hard.
boutiques, though.
It's hard.
Well, it's hard, but here's the thing: is like most boutiques in general have never had a rep here or a broker.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying?
They're all coming one man show. We all go to Cigar Fest. We see no reps with the owner.
Yeah, they've come out and they put some their own boots on the ground or something once or twice, but it's most of these boutique brands, they don't have the money to do that. And so
No.
if you get in there, it's if it's a good brand and it's a viable brand, which, why are you going to bring it on if it's not? If it's a viable brand, you look really good pretty quickly because there was nobody there to do anything. So, I mean, you go in and you do the right thing for these guys. You show your face and do good events for them, and all of a sudden, your brand's in a whole state.
Now we talked a little bit about this where you're not bringing up any brands or names or anything like that, but you had said that sometimes these, you know, some of these cigar shops, they want to focus on boutique, but boutique, for whatever reason, due to either finances or draw, or maybe that shop only buys a box and it's just not a draw. You know, you and I talked about, you have a minimum number that a shop is needed to get for you to travel for an event.
Yep.
Obviously not going to disclose that number.
Yeah.
But when you have somebody like you going and actually to these states showing the love, you're able to expand your brands that much quicker with, I don't want to say minimum effort or minimal effort, but not your typical 9 to 5 effort. I mean, you and I have talked about that. You know, now your brokerage is running, you know, kind of more or less in a lot of ways on autopilot, because you have very established, but that took you years.
Well, and that's exactly what it is you have to establish yourself, and you have to take the time, and it's going to take time with those boutiques to establish the territory. But once you have, it's you know, it's just answering your phone and doing events, you know what I'm saying, and doing the right thing for the brand and for the store. Hanging out and passing out sticks in the lounge or whatever. But what I also like about being a broker is if you're a rep, and you know, you walk into a store, it might not be the brand's fault even. It could be the previous rep that worked there or whatever.
Yep.
It could be a back order issue from 4 months before you began, whatever it was. If you aren't working with the right brand, and you didn't do your research by going to these stores and asking about it, and you just took on a territory, you know, that you really had no idea about. I knew a lot of these stores as a retailer before I was even selling to them as a broker, you know what I'm saying? I talked to these guys, I ordered from these guys, so I kind of knew these certain stores in this region of Wyoming, New Mexico, all of this stuff. And I think that went a long way in helping me too. But like I said, when you walk in with one brand, it might not even be your fault, but if all you have is X brand and they don't like that brand, you're out of that store.
And you and I have even talked about that in as far as even in the legacy circuit, or not even the legacy circuit, but in the in-house circuit.
Yep.
Maybe a company with in-house reps ditches a local rep, brings in a new rep, and that new rep is maybe really good at their job, really knows everything, but now is playing catch up and ass kissing and discounting and losing commission.
Yep.
While he's now effectively building a new territory, more or less, which I would, as somebody that's built territories, that's fixed territories in sales, fixing a territory is harder than building a territory.
Much harder. Yeah, exactly. And that's why I'm saying, like, if you go in with a fresh slate with some of these boutiques that have never been really, you know, they've never had a representation in that area. They may have never had the owner in that area, or, you know, it may have been once every couple of years or whatever. They might like the owner, but, you know, they never had anyone to push the deal through. But they don't like X brand. Well, guess what? I have 4 other brands. You're probably gonna like one of them. Because I got Nicaraguan stuff. I have Dominican stuff, dude. I have some brands that have both. Like, you know, I got some that have a blend of all kinds of stuff, dude. You know, whether it's Dominican, American, you know, whatever. I mean, like Enrique, we were talking, you know, the Pennsylvania and all kinds of stuff. It's like, I have something that's gonna hit you as a broker.
So how old were you when you first broker? And who was it?
So I believe Warped and Matilde were the first 2 that I took on.
And you were what, 28? It was about 3 years ago,
like
right?
28
2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, 27, 28.
And how many in those 2-3 years you've been around? How many are you repping now?
Now 5.
And what are they?
So I have Matilde, Wildfire, Jake Wyatt, Warped, and HVC.
So I would say that a lot of people that are not heavy in the cigar industry or geeky in the brands would say, I've never heard of your brands. But that's kind of the point, right? Because you have quickly become one of, I would say, with branded wells in this area, the most established broker, and you did it in a period of 3 years, and you did it with brands that nobody really knew a whole lot of 3 years ago.
Yep.
I mean, Warped, yes.
Yep.
Matilde, not so much.
Yep.
Maybe HVC
a little bit, but
they were still coming on the scene.
Yep, I would agree.
But definitely not Jake Wyatt.
Definitely not Jake Wyatt. Definitely Matilde had some traction at a point, and then we had to get that back going because he had a rep for a while, and he was a really good rep, Corey Frisbee, and then Corey started a farm out in Montana, Missouri, and then in Dominican too. So he had to move on, but I mean, like that little drop in representation definitely hurt the brand for a little bit. But I think getting some more representation in the area immediately picked that back up, which that was a good case of that. You know what I'm saying? It was like a good rep to a good rep. Everyone was happy. They just wanted somebody to do events and to be able to show up and talk about the brand. And that's a lot of what the brokering and with boutiques is you got to hang out in the lounge. You got to talk to the guys. You have to get people hyped, and you have to get somebody in the store that's going to sell the stuff, because if you don't have a lot of us, we call them like champions, or, if you have a champion of the brand in that store, every day he's there, he's going to sell your stuff. But you got to get that guy excited about it. And he's not going to be excited if you never show up. And he's not going to be excited if you're not giving him a nice stick once in a while, making him feel special. Because at the end of the day, I was that guy. It was, if a guy walked in and he was a rep and he handed me a piece of shit, dude, and I knew it was like the shittiest cigar from their brand, it's like, well, dude, why do I want to sell your stuff, bro? Because this guy just gave me a really nice cigar, dude. And like,
you gave me a bundle, and that guy gave me a $20 one.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, dude, like, I'm just a salesman in the store, and if you're gonna take care of me, I might take care of you, especially if I like your stuff, man. Then it's like, dude, not only do I like the stuff, but you're actually giving me the good stuff.
Oh yeah. So walk through really quickly. You had mentioned research a few different times, and
Mr. Cody.
I love Cody.
Yes, sir.
Walk us through. By the way, everybody, I'm doing a broker series. John's episode 1 of this. I've got Brandon Wells and a few others coming. I really think this is a really interesting kind of series that we could have here that just shows different variations of how people kind of look into who they bring on, right? Because who Brandon has isn't who you have, but why does Brandon have who he has and you have who you have, and why didn't, so walk us through what is your approach to picking up a cigar, and what I mean by that is, am I calling you? Like, if I don't call you, do you call me? Do you seek me out, or
it depends
mutual?
If it's Steve Saka or not.
Steve,
going back to that, Dave
Lafferty
needs to make room over here.
I don't think Dave's making room.
He doesn't have a territory rep out here. It's just Dave right now.
I think he's fine with that.
No, I know he is fine with that. But I mean, honestly, like, it depends on the brand. There's certain brands, like, seriously, I mean, out of every brand right now, Saka is probably the only one that I would continually bother, that I would ask to rep his stuff, because I believe in that brand so much, But when I'm looking for a brand, generally, because I'm making rounds all the time and I'm in stores, I see, and also because I came from a store I know what the market wants. You know what I'm saying?
Do you
And
think that was a little bit of your cheat code, real
that was part
quick?
of it. Yeah.
Was the store?
Yeah.
You think you
Yeah.
would have had the success you had
No.
in the time you had without the store?
No. I
Okay.
definitely think that was a huge plus. Was working. I mean, it's like Pete Johnson, dude. Pete Johnson attributes a lot of
Yep.
what he did. He swept the floors at the beginning and then worked his way up in a store, and and now he's Pete Johnson, dude. Like,
Yeah.
and it's like sometimes like understanding everything in your industry, there's you can't understand everything, but getting as big of a picture and as much of those details, and you have to understand your role. Like, hey, if you're a blender, you need to understand tobacco and everything, but you might not understand everything about farming the tobacco. And that's why I'm saying you don't need to know everything, but like if you're selling tobacco as a rep, you need to know what's selling. And I think working within a brick and mortar, you can definitely get more of a
Grasp on that.
yeah, especially when I did it for like almost 8 years. It's like
And you sold it all too.
Yeah, you see.
Tobacco Leaf was boutique and legacy.
Yeah, you sell it all, but also it's like you see there's different time periods, man. Like you see different trends. You see, oh wow, Maduro's really broadleaf's really in. Oh wow, broadleaf's getting short. Something happened to this or that, or everyone started using San Andreas takes off, and then you see San Andreas take, and you see if you were in that deep, you kind of see these trends. But also, like I said, when you're going around to stores, you're hearing certain things, and a lot of things are stores recommending me. Hey, these guys are looking for a rep. We recommended you to them. They're gonna give you a call, or you know. And then if I hear that from enough people where they're like, hey, this brand is really doing well in our store, but they don't have a rep, then I'm like, all right, maybe I'll reach out to them, or I'm like, hey, give them my number or whatever. Depends on how interested I am in the brand. But it has to be a brand that has upward momentum. I don't want to bring on a brand that has, like you said, downward momentum, because if I'm coming in to save your brand,
it's done.
It's already done.
You're not a brand saver.
I'm not
You're
here to save your brand, dude. Yeah, I'm not,
And there's a difference, everybody, between a saver and a grower. There's a huge, huge difference, and I'll have John explain what he thinks is that difference. But there's a big difference. They're not one and the same thing. I'm going to answer this while you're lighting that. Oh, here,
go ahead.
here.
Good.
Bruce, he's regional. All right. Most of your brokers, if not all of your brokers, are primarily going to be in a regional state unless it's a really, really small brand and they take on a national brokerage. But those are pretty few and far between. Am I right in that?
Yeah, that's definitely, yep.
So, okay. So go ahead.
What's that?
With where we left off. Building, you had said how you were picking your brands, and then you had mentioned building versus breaking, but I want you to kind of rabbit trail really quick to explain what the difference between building and saving a brand is, because they're very distinct differences.
Yeah. So I mean, and I'm not gonna say the brand, but a very large brand that's been around for a long time and has received lots of rewards came to me at the show, but they've had a lot of problems in the past, and a lot of problems with their reps and with their brokers, and a lot of bad signs, and it's kind of like that hot chick, in the bar, dude, but like she's a crazy ass hot chick, and you're like, damn, you look good from afar, but you get up close and you see all the details, and you're like, damn. Probably not the one I need to go home with tonight.
Perfect
you know what I'm saying? Yeah, dude. Yeah, you were in the right lighting. You know what I'm saying? The your makeup starts to wear off, and you wake up to Coyote Ugly. But that's what I'm saying. It's like you have to look at that stuff, and like even though it was a really well established brand, dude, you going in and fighting that, like, I hate to say it in the way that it is, but it's like you're fighting like a negative wave, or like you're like stuck in a current, dude, and you're swimming, but you're not going anywhere for a while.
So do you ask for if they have retracted numbers in an area? Meaning, Oh, we blew it away. We were selling, I'm just throwing numbers out. We were selling 10 boxes to every lounge in the area. Well, what are you selling now? 5. Oh, so is that in your mind like a I'm saving, or is
I
that
don't
maybe a mismanagement? I can.
I don't even care about what they tell me in that sense, because in that scenario they can tell me whatever the fuck they want. They're selling, and they can print off whatever they want on some bullshit report. Uh, I go and ask the stores, man. Like, dude, if I ask
So
them,
you go that far in where you will research to the individual store
yeah,
level
yeah,
that brand.
yeah, it's me going to the stores, and if I really think it's a brand I'm interested in, I'll ask a bunch of stores that I do very well with boutiques in, and it's like, hey, what do you think? Do you get asked about this? Or if they already have it, hey, how's it doing? Or what are you selling, dude? Is it better than some of the brands I have? Is it worse? Is it going downhill? Is it going uphill? What's the scenario? And if hey, I go to 10 stores that I think are like my top accounts that do well, and I like, you know, 5 or 6 of them even are like, yeah, really interested in this. It's like, all right, dude, we can get the other 4 or 5 to come on real quick. Then it trickles down to all the other guys. But, you know, it has to be something that is moving in the right direction, man. Like, because if it's moving in the negative direction, really that brand is gonna have to, in my eyes, and I haven't wanted to do that with a brand, but in my eyes, if I was going that route, it would have to be, hey, look, you've got a bunch of swag, dude. You've got all this, you're gonna give out all kinds of stuff, because that's how we're gonna get you back into these guys' good graces, basically. We're gonna go put ashtrays on every podium in their lounge, dude, or whatever. And I want some artwork made that says, whatever brand up there,
Mm-hmm.
to, when someone's sitting in the lounge, they're looking up and seeing your logo. And, I try to go in deeper with the brands than just being a broker too. Is like I try to get them ideas like that, where it's
Because as
like,
a
look,
broker, part of their success is your success,
yeah,
and vice versa in that, right? So
yep,
you're not going to want to broker somebody that's going to half-ass it as much as you don't want to work with somebody that's going to
exactly,
half-ass it.
exactly, man,
You know,
exactly.
so you are kind of in a way owners of a brand. I mean, is that kind of a
Yeah, it's
fair
a fair,
mental thought
yeah,
to think of as a broker? Is
yeah,
you you're owning that area's name for
yeah.
that brand. I mean,
Yeah,
is that
it's
fair?
fair to say that, man. You're definitely, as a broker, you're almost more so maybe an ambassador. And yeah, like you said, you have to take ownership in the brand, man. Because if you don't, it's not gonna last for you.
Because your other brands could be affected,
Yeah, yeah,
and that's the other thing too. Is all of your brands have to kind of work together. And you had mentioned it, but I want to ask. I want to. Hey Kenny, if you go to so Kenny lives here in Denver. So I will let you tell him where the Iggy guy is.
Kenny, if you go to Smoking Cave, what is it,
Highlands
Highlands
Ranch.
Ranch? If you go to Edwards on Broadway, Tobacco Leaf down in Lakewood, Tooth and Bear up in Woodland Park. Uh, that's pretty much where you're gonna get them so far.
And it's a very, very good cigar.
And it's already on shelves. So, and then we just released the Connecticut this year, and
Oh,
Ryan's smoking the Maduro right now, which will come out in like 6 or 7 months.
so this is the Connecticut, the Flourish. Very, very good, creamy, mild plus. I think it's fair to say. I wouldn't say straight mild.
Yeah, it's a
I
mild
would say
mild
mild
plus.
plus.
Yeah,
A little bit more horsepower in it.
it's got some Nicaraguan filler to give it a little bit more body.
Yeah, yeah. And I will say this has been fun, and it's been smoking great. I've been putting it down, picking it back up, talking, and still been going. So, but anyways, let's talk about. We've gone through the research, how you do your research. Let's talk about why you choose the brands you do, and what I mean by that is not based on sales, but based on your own vertical emptiness in slots, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
you had mentioned in the beginning, you don't like Dominican, I got Nicaraguan for you. You don't
Yeah.
like this, I've got this. You don't like that, you got the, and that really is kind of the key, right? A used car sale is not to say that you are, but
Yeah.
as a non-captive, the best way to paint it would be a used car. You don't want all Toyota Corollas, and that's the only
Yeah.
thing on the lot,
Exactly. Yep.
right?
Yep.
You want to have some Ford, you want to have some Chevy,
Yeah,
even though
man.
you might not like Ford or Chevy, you
We're an
know.
exotic car dealership.
Exactly. So Ferrari,
Yep.
Lamborghini, Aston,
Yep.
you gotta have them all. So kind of walk us through how you find your own holes in your own profile, a book of profiles that you maintain.
So when I first started, like I said, I had Warped and I had Matilde. Warped, I particularly they already had won some Cigar Aficionado top awards, number
Yeah,
3, and Cigar
very well
Aficionado
known.
number 11.
Yep.
You know, Kyle's been around for 10 years, so he was a well-established brand. I didn't feel like I would have any trouble selling his stuff. And what I liked is he had a little bit of Dominican and a little bit of Nicaraguan.
And you met him through Tobacco Leaf.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yes, that's
exactly.
where that relationship.
Yep,
Again, it's not like you just called him out
yep,
of the blue.
exactly. Yep, he already knew who I was working through the store, which again, that was like, you know, a major benefit. Was I already had relationships with some of these guys from going to PCA for years, and you know, helping people at Rocky Mountain Cigar Fest, whatever it was. That's how I got connected with Terrence. Really, you know, was helping him at Rocky Mountain. You know, and it just kind of comes to show you, you know, the full circle of how this industry takes care of each other too, man. Which is nice, dude. Is like they didn't forget about that stuff, dude. You know, once I got to the point where I could
This
do stuff
industry
with
has
them.
a long memory.
Yeah.
Good, bad, or indifferent,
Yeah,
this
man.
industry
Yes,
remembers.
sir.
Like that's the one thing peeking behind Oz's curtain over the last 4 years, and
Yeah,
even
man.
in your there's a lot of memories this industry holds,
Yeah, man. You ain't
whether they
wrong.
be good or
You aren't
bad.
wrong, dude.
They hold on to
You aren't
them,
wrong, dude. You
and
ain't wrong.
when they know that you're good people,
Hmm.
you know this industry will break its back to help you.
Hmm. And I would agree. And like I said, Scott too at Warped, man. I mean, like, dude, he went to like major lengths, man, to show me to believe in me, man. So did, like, you know, Tobacco Leaf. A lot of these guys, like, they showed me that I could get to these places. You know what I'm saying? And they believed in me, helped me get there. But through that, man, like I saw those brands. I had Matilde. I already knew Enrique really well. I liked Enrique. You know, and that's part of my selection too. Is at the end of the day, man, like we're a partnership. Like you said, I'm taking ownership of your brand and everything. Like if I have some ideas for you, I want to be able to see some of this come to fruition too, and like not because I want to be part of your brand in the sense of like, oh, give put my name on that shit, dude. But like, I want us to succeed, dude. And like, if I hear something from 18 stores, hey, we probably need to do this, dude. You know
Oh
what I'm
yeah,
saying? Like,
oh yeah.
and so, you know, and it might come from one idea might come from one guy, and then you spitball the idea and it becomes something. But like, that's what's amazing about being able to work with people that you want to work with. Also, a lot of the boutique brands, you know, you're not dealing with a $1 billion corporate structure,
A lot faster moving.
you know, and it's faster moving, but at the same time, it's you know, I can talk to Kyle, I
Yeah,
can
you can
talk to
call them up.
Rainier, dude, I can
Hmm.
talk to Enrique, man,
Hmm.
like dude, I can get a hold of them whenever the fuck I want and spitball some bullshit with them or talk about a cigar with them. Dude, if you work for a big company, man, you're just a cog in there, you know, in the gears, man.
You're a
You're
You're a
just another
spreadly.
gear, dude.
Yeah, you're a
Yeah.
line item on a
Yeah,
spreadsheet.
and you got to go talk to this guy who's going to talk to this guy who's going to
Who
send you
sends
up
an
the ladder to
email
this guy.
there?
Yeah, and you're sending emails to 15 different dudes before you've even talked to the guy you want to talk to, and it's like, dude, nothing gets done like that, man. And like, that's what I like about what I do is I deal personally with the people I want to deal with, and it really becomes a family between me and the brands, you know. And I feel that love, dude, from them, man. Like, they make me feel valued working for them. I don't feel like just some cog in a machine. It really
Well,
is.
yeah, that's kind of like the best part of sales is feeling like you contributed to the bottom line. And when it comes to this territory, you've been kind enough to share with me a lot of the insights and stuff. And there's like you're definitely a huge value add to the bottom line. So like when they come out and they're looking through territories, or say if there's ever an opportunity to do an in-house or do this or do that, they're going to be contacting somebody like you
Yep.
that's they could turn around and go, well, fuck, all I did was give them a few cigars and look what they did.
Yep.
Imagine if I brought them in house and did this. So
Yep.
when you're building with Warped, you had Matilde, and now are you actively then seeking out Dominican, Honduran? Are you building that profile
So yeah. So
over the years?
then it was like, both Matilda had a little bit of full bodied stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but not necessarily nicotine strength full bodied. It was more, full flavored. Um, and that was a nice balance, kind of, because I had Dominican, I had little Nicaraguan and Dominican, but I didn't have anything that was like fuller bodied, just like, a lot of Kyle's stuff is medium full. A lot of Enrique's stuff, at the time was medium full. Um, I needed somebody that had a little bit fuller bodied stuff.
A little bit more of a
So
nasal buster.
yeah, so then I found Wildfire, but Wildfire was something that, and that wasn't even fitting 100% into my portfolio, because really Wildfire to me was it was a it was one of those leap of faiths. I saw the momentum of the brand, and there was a lot of people interested in it. I liked Jeremy from the moment I met him, before
He's a
when he
character.
started the brand. I liked what he was about. I liked the vibes of his brand. I thought the vibes of Wildfire and everything fit into Colorado, Utah, Wyoming.
100%. So does he, if you look at him.
Yeah. I mean,
He's a
fits.
mountain man.
He's a mountain man, dude. It fits into our territory. So I saw with his brand, I was willing to put a little bit more effort
More
into it.
lifestyle you saw in his brand.
Yeah, but he also treated me very well, man. He set low expectations, dude. At first, he was like, "Look, dude, like, just get me into the right places. I don't need to be everywhere, and I don't care if I'm everywhere yet, dude. Like, I just want to be in the right stores that believe in what we're doing, man. And like, you believe in the vision, you see my vision. I want you to show other people my vision." And I thought that was an easy vision to translate to other people in this area.
Plus, where did Jeremy come from?
From Caldwell.
So you also didn't take a risk on a novice.
Yeah, exactly. He already had connections.
He already had connections.
He knew
So
the industry inside and
You
out.
felt comfortable taking a risk with somebody that's already been proven.
And he knew the industry inside and out. And just like me, dude, he started working at a brick and mortar shop.
And you really don't learn boutique better than Caldwell.
Yeah, and he worked at Small Batch. So, dude, I mean, he knew boutiques, man. I mean, that's what Small Batch did, was the boutiques.
They are, yeah.
And so, really, I mean, where his background was, it was something I could believe in, because it wasn't just nobody that came up with, $1 million and thought they were going to get in the industry. Whether it's one guy or it's a famous whatever, dude, you know what I'm saying? I mean, there's a lot of these guys that just get in and they don't know anything about the industry. This guy knew it. He already knew what he was doing, and he had the vision. It was just, hey, let's sell it now,
So you bring them on to be a little bit more heavy horsepower.
Yep, a little heavier.
So now you're building your profile. You've got the mild, medium. Now you're going a little bit bolder.
Yep. Then I go into
so I see how you're building your profile on body and cigar profile, not country. So that's interesting.
And some of his stuff comes out of FTC Honduras, which, so then I'm adding that, but technically a lot of it, none of it's Honduran tobacco, but it's adding Honduras to my profile.
Well, of course, yeah.
But so my bad. And it was just a little something different. His blends tasted very unique. They tasted way different than anything else that was out there coming out at the time. I remember that first year when I tasted his first stick that came out at PCA. I had smoked, 100 sticks, and like your palate's already kind of shitty, dude, at that point, dude, but it's like I smoked, like I walked over, I see this little like fucking fishing booth, dude, or like little like camper booth,
Yeah, I
dude, you know what I'm
remember
saying, with the fire pit and all that shit, dude, and his little lawn chairs out
tent,
there,
he had
and
a
yeah,
tent.
dude, tent, and he's in the bear suit and shit, dude, and it's like, this is fucking awesome, dude. And then he hands me the stick, and then I smoke it, and I'm like, wow, not only is this like way different, just like visually, man, from what everyone else is doing at the show, but your cigar is awesome, but in a unique way that I've smoked 100 cigars, and, maybe 8 of them at that show really stuck out to me, and I was like, that one really stuck out. So that was, and then he released more after that, and like every time I was like, wow, these are unique. So then it was something I could believe in because it wasn't everything that everyone else was doing. Then HVC comes along, and I did approach Rainier, but I also knew Rainier was at the point where he was looking for a rep, and it just literally was a smooth transition. Like he almost, I heard through a
Well, that
bird.
and the hot cake was
Yeah,
a couple years ago. The hot cake was hot. I
it
mean,
was,
like,
it
still
dude.
is with the Maduro release.
And it's bro. Here in Colorado, man, they're like $10.
Yeah, they so
Like
great,
it's crazy, dude.
and that's with our
Yeah,
taxes.
that's with our
It's our
taxes. It's
fucked up
$10. In
taxes.
in New Mexico, they're like $8, dude. Like it's a killer stick for $8. And he has pan calientes, these little like bundle sticks, dude, that taste like a literal $10 cigar because he puts a long leaf in the middle, and the ash holds on a lot better, and it's got way better consistency and flavor. Uh, but they're like a $4 or $5 stick depending on where you're buying them at, and it's the best $4 or $5 stick you're gonna have, dude. And it like I saw that with him where I was like, dude, this is a great value stick,
Especially in
dude.
Colorado,
That's
finding
where,
something under $10
yeah,
that's a
man.
good value
That's where like
is
Rainier
hard.
really interested me. Is I was like, dude, even if people like, because I thought everything else he made was good. I love the San Isidro. I love the hot
Mm-hmm.
cakes, dude. I love a bunch of the stuff he's making, the La Rosa.
Oh yeah.
But the Black Friday, all that stuff was really good. But I was like, man, if I show someone, like, all I have to do is walk in and hand them this stick that's $4 and be like, here, smoke this. And then they're smoking, they're like, wow, this is pretty decent. I'm like, yeah, it's $4 in Colorado. And they're like, oh shit, I'll bring these on. And I'm like, yeah, but you gotta bring on a couple more things too. I'm not just gonna sell you the bundles. Bring on 2 hotcakes and try one San Isidro. And then all of a sudden, hey, you're gonna talk to a guy that's enjoying the $4 stick or whatever,
Now he's willing to go
and he wants
$8.
to buy an $8 stick one day, of the week, dude, and that's what he's gonna buy because he's already used to buying the cheap one. It was a great way to train a customer that may not, know the brand. Also, it's just a good golf stick or whatever if you're not really paying attention to it. It was a great all around sell, dude. So it was like, plus he had a bunch more fuller bodied Nicaraguan stuff, more Maduro heavy stuff, and so I was like, all right, this is filling a gap in a little bit fuller Maduro, fuller bodied Nicaraguan profile that I don't quite have yet. Got into that. Plus, it had a little bit of the value side with the bundle sticks. And then, Jake White approached me, a little bit after that. And, you know, I I thought that I needed another Dominican brand just to kind of balance things out. But it was also like a gimmicky
Thanks,
look.
Jeff.
It was a gimmicky look to the brand.
It was a little bit. So I always never understood if they were going for like a Titleist golf look, because that's kind of the way it came across to me. It was very golfish.
So Neil was the owner of it. He was a professional baseball player. So I don't know if some of that may. I'm gonna ask him that, dude.
It's sportsy look.
I'm gonna ask him that, dude.
It's sports. For those of you that don't know, Jake White is not a person. Jake White are the two owners.
The two sons.
The sons,
Of
yes.
the owner.
The two owners' sons. I don't know which one's Jake and which one's Wyatt, but that's where the brand name comes from. They're really, really good cigars. They do have, when he says gimmicky, I was talking more on the logo side. He was talking, John's talking more on they use
Tobacco accents.
the loops in the tip where they'll have like a candela swirl across
Think
the
about like the
tip.
Killer Bee, if you've seen the Killer Bee from from Blackworks, or you've got
But that
designs
was
with
like that on
tobacco.
all of their stuff. It wasn't, or I should say, the
It's
vast
almost all of
majority,
it, yeah.
almost
Almost all of
versus
it.
the Killer Bee is in one
Yep.
on the black label. So
Yep.
that's where he's saying kind of it looks great on the shelf, and sometimes people look at a cigar like that and see through it.
Yeah, well, and that's part of it. It was like I was like, when they approached me, I'd smoked a couple of things and I thought they were
They're
good.
very good cigars.
But then it was like, all right, you know, can we is the gimmick good enough to sell them? I think they're a great cigar, but now we need to get the marketing out there, you know what I'm saying? Because they're still a newer brand. But after someone smokes that cigar, they're like, wow, it looks cool. I look fancy smoking the cigar, and it's a good cigar. You know what I'm saying? So it kind of has everything. Where there's some of those cigars that are gimmicky. They have a big band or whatever it is, dude, a nice box. You buy the cigar on appearance, but then it doesn't
Let you
live
down.
up to the
Let you down.
expectation. You know what I'm
And
saying?
that's where sometimes a gimmicky approach on a cigar can hurt it.
Mm-hmm.
Because say somebody tried a gimmicky cigar like that before, right?
Yep.
Oh, I tried a swirl,
Yep.
whatever, a candela swirl or a candela tip or,
Yep.
a barber pole that looked funky or, I tried that. It didn't hit me right. I'm going to stay away from that.
And that's exactly that's even what I'm saying. Like I had the hesitation, dude, because I'm like, I stay away from gimmicks usually, but then I smoke the cigars and I'm like, fuck, they're good too, man.
Gimmick's only a gimmick if it's
Yeah.
a shit stick.
That's what I'm saying. So I was like,
If
all right,
it's
dude.
legit, you can get away. I mean, Prince was legit. He
Hey.
got away dressing like a fool.
You ain't wrong.
He
dude.
got away
You ain't wrong, dude.
calling himself a fucking symbol for
You
years.
aren't wrong,
But
dude.
he played 30-something instruments or something
Look
like
at Dennis
that.
Rodman.
Like,
Dennis Rodman, dude, wearing wedding
the
dresses.
Worm.
You know
I
what
mean,
I'm saying?
guy was
dude.
called the Worm.
That's what I'm saying.
But legit wearing wedding dresses, yeah. Nobody. You could get away with that type of stuff when you have the background to back it up.
Yeah, man. That's what I'm saying. I mean, think about Fuente, dude. Like, man, they do some crazy sizes and shapes and designs and shit, dude, on their cigars. They done made the Dan Marino football and shit, dude. Like, they do some crazy shit, but like, they're good cigars, dude. I mean, if you like an Opus, man, you're gonna want to seek out that Dan Marino football or whatever weird size, dude. Which probably wouldn't normally like if it was just a $10 cigar versus a $10 cigar. Are you gonna pick up the football shaped one? Probably not. But like it's an Opus Dan Marino football,
Yeah.
so now it's cool.
Yeah,
You
and
know?
you have a lot of company doing the gimmicky approach as limited releases. The LFD football,
Yeah, man.
the LFD does the Stars and Stripes.
Yeah,
They,
man.
they do
Roman Craft does
the
those
yep,
swirl,
yep.
kind of barber pulley weird
So,
things, dude.
so the industry sees it, but they don't. They see it much more on a limited release than they do on a regular release.
And that's the thing too, is they have a good design, but they're not crazily priced, dude. Like
They're not.
You know what I'm saying?
They're priced at the risky point to
Yeah.
where it's like, am I? So you're building your profile. You're building your portfolio. What is the average MSRP in the state of Colorado in your profile? Is between what and what?
I would say between 12 and $15.
What's your high and low?
Brands?
No, just price point.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like 12 to $15. Oh,
That's your
what's
average.
the highest to
What's your
lowest?
What's your highest to lowest?
I mean, Kyle released like the piece unique during Christmas last year, which is definitely the most expensive stick my brands have had. It was like $40, $45, depending on the shop here. Lowest end is the Pan Caliente bundle, which is gonna be like a $4 stick.
Okay, so now my next question is, how does a bundle brand or a bundle I said bundle because you just said bundle. How does a boutique brand fare with a $40 stick? And part two to that question is, how long in Warp's life did it take for him to come out with that? And I'm asking this for a specific reason.
Yeah. So I mean, with Warped, I think it was a lot easier. Like if Wildfire made or Matilde made a $45 stick tomorrow, if it had the right story with Enrique or something, you know, with his legacy, he could probably, with Enrique's background and everything, he could probably create something maybe to that extent. But it's very hard, I think, as for any brand, dude, to make a $45 stick. I think where Kyle went right was it was a buildup of everything, dude. Like when
He
for
got the
years,
permission after years.
yeah, for years he's had the La Colmena, he's had the Oso, you know, I mean, and these are $25 sticks already. So people were already used to some of the Skyflower, Moon Gardens, you know, all that shit. They were already used to some of these sticks that were definitely heading towards higher end. And I think he had a very unique profile in the way he did a lot of those blends.
Mm-hmm.
So I think those whores, particularly, like when I sold those cigars, the shops, man, the shops that got them, those boxes were gone like overnight, dude. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it was maybe a week or two at max that those lasted in any of the stores that got them. And
hold on, it lasted in the stores a week, week and a half,
yeah.
Not in your inventory.
No,
sell.
it was overnight that was gone, dude.
Okay.
We sold those out.
So you're
Literally
talking
overnight,
within a couple weeks, they were practically
off
gone.
the shelves at a store, dude.
Now,
So
do you think Kyle's career? See, the way I look at a $45 stick in a boutique brand, and correct me if my thought process is wrong, you have to ask permission to do that. And what I mean by asking permission is you have to give the public a reason to trust you at $45.
Oh yeah.
You can't start at, I know brands that'll start at 20 a stick, and I'm like, dude, like why? Like, or 30. And I'm like, you have no name recognition.
Yep.
You're not a supercar.
Yep.
Like you don't have track times to prove what you could do. Like your cigar.
Well, and that's where I'm saying it's like, you know, Kyle had already won Cigar Aficionados.
That's what I mean.
You know,
So
I mean,
he was given permission by his consumership, where they said, "Okay, you make it, we'll do it."
Yeah.
But you had said Enrique would even have a hard time with his prestige, with his pedigree.
Yeah, and you look at Enrique, dude, like he's slowly dipped his, and that's what I think he's doing it the right way. Enrique's doing it the way that like Kyle did it. Is like, look, Enrique's really never had anything in Colorado above, let's call it 14, 15 bucks, dude. You know what I'm saying? Most of his stuff for a long time, dude, was 10, 11 bucks.
That's what I mean.
For a Toro, you know, or a
that's
Gordo.
what I mean. So
and then he raised it last year with a limited edition that he did for it was like in Colorado $18.
You have to carry your consumership to that level. You can't start there.
No, then is
how do you come down?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Hey, and then his dad's release with the Jose Seas, $25 here, dude. So he's slowly working his consumers in a way, but he's also, dude, each one you're smoking, dude, you're smoking and you're like, fuck yeah, that's worth the price. So then you go to the next one and you're like, wow, that's worth the price. And I think that's a lot of what price comes down to in general. And I think,
but it's worth the price because I, as a consumer, smoke his brand.
Yeah.
I know what these cost.
Yeah.
So when I smoke his $25, I go, oh man, I taste, because I have that background.
Exactly.
And again, it's that first one that comes. It's not a $25 stick.
Yeah.
Because I have nothing to reference it to us in your portfolio.
Exactly. But also, I mean, even let's say you have no reference. But I agree with what you're saying. Say you have no reference. I think at the end of the day, what it comes down to is the perceived value of who's buying that stick. And it's like, you know, do you have the expendable income to spend on a $25 stick? If you don't, it's you're already gonna have a certain type of judgment. If you smoke $25 sticks all day, you have a lot to compare to that. And like, you know, what is your value of basically where you're not getting a return. You're not seeing a return, like, you know, and that's where I think as a brand, especially a boutique, but like even a bigger brand, even Fuente or whatever, dude, it's like, you know, if you're releasing something, it has to continually, if it's $25 for your highest stick and then you go to $50 and it's not twice as good, you know, to that person, hey man, you're probably not gonna sell a lot of those sticks. But like, what's that return, dude? So like, I think usually around 25 to $30 is like your level for most brands where you're like, you
That's
know,
above what I'm willing to spend on
and
99% of cigars.
and it might be, but dude, you're gonna smoke that Solita Red, dude, and you're gonna
I
be
am
like,
gonna.
that's worth $25,
Yeah,
dude. You
so
know what
you
I'm
bring
saying,
up a
dude?
great
Like,
point. There are brands I will spend. I will buy a $30 cigar.
yeah,
Never think twice of it,
yeah,
and smoke it and love the shit out of it. There are other brands I won't even consider it.
yeah.
But I, for one, you brought up Solita Red. I've been on Steve's journey. I've smoked his stuff.
Mm-hmm.
A $20 cigar from him when his entry level ones are like 12 in this state.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a huge price gap.
No.
And I'm also, because I have the lineage with Steve and the cigar smoking experience with Steve, maybe I'm different in this, but I will take a $25 stick and compare it to, I don't need it to be as good as other $25 sticks or even $20 cigars. I just need it to be that much better than anything else in the line
Well,
that
and
they
that's
have.
that's what I'm saying. So like, say you go from a sober Mesa Solita or
Oh yeah,
a regular sober Mesa, is the Solita Red, you know, 30% more in cost? Is it, or is it 30% better? You know what I'm saying? Just like you said. So I completely agree. And so, you know, but that's the return there is like, to me, for most brands that I like,
but see that's the issue though, is if you start at a $20 stick, you don't have anybody to compare
Oh, I agree.
a lesser
No, I agree. That's
expensive
very
cigar
true.
in your
Yeah.
line. Now they're
Very true.
comparing
Very
your
true.
$20 to a Plasencia.
Oh yeah, no, very true, dude.
And I'm not gonna lie, most
It's gonna have to be a good stick.
In Alma del Fuerte is $20 in this state.
Yeah,
And if I'm going with a boutique for 20,
yeah.
I'm now comparing it to a Plasencia.
It's gonna have to be a killer stick, bro.
It is. That's where starting at
Yeah.
8 to 10 or
No,
12.
I agree, dude. I agree.
And then going to 20.
No,
Now
I
people
agree,
are
dude.
comparing it to yours versus others. And that's
I
where
agree.
I think a lot of times some boutiques price themselves out too high.
Oh, I agree, dude. I agree. And that's a major. So like, going back to the original of the broker, like, really, dude, I ask 4 questions basically, like, when I'm talking to a brand. It's like, what's your back stock look like? And these are all questions that I'm gonna then go ask all of my accounts.
Oh, yeah.
And everyone that has their shit, dude.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's your back stock look like? What is your back order situation? Because if they start talking about anything after that, dude, about back orders and this and that, or giving me some bullshit excuses, I'm already not interested in your brand. You gotta have shit for me to ship. I sell stuff. I drive around all day on my
I don't
own
get
dime.
paid if you don't ship it.
Yeah, and I'm driving around on my own dime. You're not paying me on your dime, dude. So if like, hey, if I'm a in-house rep and you want me to fly around on your dime for nothing and pay for my hotels,
Okay.
that's cool, whatever, dude. But like, you're not. So if you don't have shit for me to sell, I'm wasting my fucking time and I'm souring my reputation, because even if your stuff moves, I'm going into a store and they're looking at me every time and associating all of my other brands with that brand, saying, why the fuck don't you have product for me? My shelves are always empty, dude. And every time I order for you, you know, you don't have shit for me to get. And I've been again on that side of the brick and mortar side. Frustrating. So why would I bring on a brand that I'm gonna put another brick and mortar in that situation? Doesn't make sense. So that's one of my major, you know, things. Then it's like, hey, what is the traction, dude? What kind of traction do you have in this territory? How many accounts do you have? Do you have accounts that are, what's Paul saying?
Well, finish your question, and we got 2 questions
Yeah.
here. So finish yours.
So you're, I'm looking. What's the traction of your brand? How many stores are you in? Are you in no stores? Because if you're in no stores, you have no traction. If you're in 10 stores, but you just need a guy to take it to the next level and do events for you, cool. That's where I'm coming in, dude. But I'm not gonna just like, unless we're Wildfire. That's the only brand I looked at that I'm like, I'll build that brand out here.
So what you just said is the key word between, in my opinion, between save and build.
Mm-hmm.
It's traction.
Mm-hmm.
If you have no traction, I'm now literally pushing the car uphill.
Yep.
With my own feet.
Yep.
And that's not going to work.
No.
If you have traction, I'll put my engine in it and help you get up that hill faster.
Yeah, man.
And that right there is like, if you're to name off one word between saving and building, is traction.
Yeah, man. Exactly.
If you have none, I'm saving, and I don't want to be in that position.
100%, dude.
Because now I want 20% of your company.
Yeah, we don't want to be in that.
We don't want to.
Dude.
We don't want to.
And then, hey, I'm looking at what support do you have for me to support your brand? Do you have some swag, and do you have some event packages and things like that? What kind of deals do you have for bigger accounts? Because if I have a person like Smoker Friendly and they have 900 stores and I can get you into 50 of them right away, well, dude, I got to be able to support these stores.
You're going to need to raffle some shit.
I need to raffle some shit off. Even a big account. It doesn't have to be Smoker Friendly. It could be a one-off store that's moving 20 grand of the stuff, and it's like these guys really support. What are we doing for them? So if they have no support for the stores and the customers in turn, hey, it's not gonna work. And then, you've got to look at really what's your relationship with those people, and what are their expectations on that brand, and if you can come to terms, those are really the main things that I'm asking as a broker to a brand.
Now, Richard asks, how does the quality and construction of a cigar come into play with what you pick to sell?
Yeah, I mean that's something that
if 90% of it.
Yeah, and if I'm working with a brand, I've probably smoked if I'm interested in that brand, I've probably smoked a decent amount of their stuff. And if I haven't,
smoked everything from them, probably
everything from
at
them.
least once,
probably multiple times,
multiple boxes, but at least one box of everything.
Exactly. Like, dude, with Warped, man, I had smoked hundreds of boxes, dude, before, and I knew what they were about, dude. I knew what their construction was. I knew what everything was. Same thing with HVC. Same thing with Mathilde, dude. And I sold Mathilde for 8 years, dude. And fuck, I had never had a guy come back almost unheard of, other than maybe Padron. Out of every brand in that store, Padron and Mathilde were maybe the only two that I never had someone come back and be like, oh, too tight of a draw, burned shitty, canoed, tunneled, whatever, dude. Just super consistent, man. So those were things I already knew about a lot of these brands. But yeah, man, if you've got a bunch of consistency and construction issues, it's not going to work out, dude. And it doesn't matter if your cigar is the best cigar in the world.
Put your brick and mortar hat on. What's a bad return amount on a box of cigars? Meaning, in a box of 20, how many of those on average from the retailer standpoint?
None of them should be returned on 20.
Okay.
I would say if you're going to 100 sticks.
So you're talking numbers need to be a lot bigger than 1 out of 20.
Dude, if it's 1 out of 20, I'm not talking to the brand.
Really?
That's a problem, dude.
So 1 in a box is okay. So
if
from a
1 out of 20
side,
guys walks into that store and they have a fucked up experience, that's not good.
Okay, dude. So 1 out of how many out of 100 should you?
1. And that's
1%.
That's the minimum for me, dude. Hey, dude, literally, like I said, Mathilde, I've never had any store, dude. I've never had any.
So you're looking for a 1% or less.
Yeah, man. I mean, with Warped, dude.
So
if they ever run into something, it is fixed immediately, dude. It's not something that they just let go wrong. And that's the same thing with all of the brands. I want a brand that is going to fix a problem with anything. If Jeremy has a problem, that shit is gonna come right off the shelves, and he's gonna get something that was already, verified and already what it should be right back onto that shelf, dude. Not that this has happened, but I'm just saying that's the
No,
type
yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
people they
But that,
are.
but from not even a broker, but from you as when you were in retail,
Hmm.
if you were taking more than one out of 100 sticks back out of a certain line or a
Yep.
brand, you were raising a red flag.
Yep. That's already a red flag.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. And I mean, that makes sense, especially modern, new world cigars. That the vast majority of them are draw tested. That really shouldn't be an issue.
Problem is too, man, is you're a boutique brand, dude. So
You've got more to prove.
it's hard for you to walk in and have someone believe in your shit if it's not working,
You
dude.
can't
If it's
have a
not,
bad day.
yeah, if every time they're coming back up to the counter and they're saying, "Oh, this shit blew up, dude. Give me another one, dude."
Yeah,
This
you
that
can't
costs the
afford to
store
have a
money,
bad
man.
day.
And dude, if you're small, man, you're not giving out Traeger grills and everything to the stores, so you're already in their eyes in debt to them in some way, basically, because they're helping you move a boutique brand. So you got to help them, man. Like you have to help them by making a good product, because if the product's not there and it's not good, dude, they're they're losing money, man, and they're just gonna kick your shit off the shelf. Because like I said, out of the 5 brands I have, I think they're all extremely consistent, but almost every one of those brands has their own factory. They have very close control on quality control on everything if they don't, and they're at the factories often enough that there isn't issues or they're fixed immediately. They're ahead of the curve. You know what I'm saying? They were at the factory before the thing's fucked up and ends up in a box in Miami. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, like, having that trust in those brands out of those 5. And you could talk about like Brandon Wells brands, or you could talk about, Wattman's brands, dude. Like, it's not just my brands. We've all chose brands that we believed in because they had consistency, and there's
Yeah, well, that's
so
you
many
have to.
brands.
You have to. There's so many brands that, I mean, to be honest with you, as a broker, you guys could probably bring on 50 new brands a month
Hmm.
and still not even scratch the
Yeah.
surface
Yep.
on brands. And a
Yep.
lot of those brands are dog turds, hog shits, can't supply orders,
Yep.
or think that an all African burley cigar
They put
with green tea
yeah, they
and
put
black
Earl
tea
Grey tea, dude, or whatever in their shit,
mix.
dude.
Not even kidding, everybody.
Hmm.
That is a real cigar. Go watch Kevin Shahan's PCA 3 boutique thing, and you will see it. All African burley,
Puree.
puree burley blend, which burley is a pipe tobacco.
And a Virginia pipe tobacco leaf is the binder, I believe.
And to smooth it out, they sprinkled in
Earl Grey tea and black tea.
green tea and black.
Yeah. Yep.
No
Yep.
joke. No joke. I have no idea what people are. They made a cigar and they tried to sweeten it up a little bit, I guess. But anyways, obviously not a blend or brand you're going to be bringing on, because I see a lot of construction
Don't
issues.
see a future for that cigar.
I also see a lot of construction issues, like the core falling out.
I see a lot of I see a lot of issues for that brand, dude.
So Paul asks here, how do you get new smokers to become old when sticks run starting $10 and up? Tough for a newbie out there to drop that amount these days. Let's put that back up. Maybe I read that wrong.
No. So how do you get new smokers to become old?
When sticks start run at $10 and up, tough for a newbie. I think how do you turn new smokers into old smokers when starting sticks nowadays are $10?
I think at the end of the day,
Especially in our state, starting sticks are $10.
yeah. I think at the end of the day, you got to think of it like this. It comes back down to kind of what I was saying earlier. What is your level of value for what your income is, and what can you afford? What do you enjoy at what you can afford? And going into that deeper, it's also, if you go to the bar and you have a beer, it's $8 or $10 for a beer at the bar, or whatever, man. I mean,
And there are champagne sticks out there for Bud Light pricing.
Yeah, man.
Like there are,
That Pan Caliente for
yeah,
$4,
there
man. I
are
mean,
ultra
there's
high quality cigars that don't break the
the
bank.
Cloud Hopper, dude. You know what I'm saying? I mean, $8, dude. I mean, it's a great stick. But like, dude, here's the thing: is I think really when I started, I didn't have the money, dude, because I was in college. I didn't have the money to buy like a Padron Family Reserve every day. That's what I wanted to smoke every day, but I couldn't buy one every day. So, but I also wanted to smoke, dude, and it was like I wanted to smoke something good that I really enjoyed because the at the end of the day, I think bourbon, I think cigars, I think a lot of it, man, is it's who you're with. It's the experience of smoking that cigar and taking it all in, man, and taking an hour to yourself to truly just zone out and do whatever, man. Whether it's breaking your friend's balls for an hour, dude, and you're all sitting around having a good time, or it's just you, you know, puffing alone or whatever on your back, balcony or whatever, man. Like, I think I'd rather smoke one really good cigar a week than three shit cigars or three average cigars. I
Now,
would,
notice
you
really
know what I'm
quickly,
saying?
notice he's not throwing out pricey when he says shit or average or really good
Yeah.
because I've had $20 shit sticks that I've
Mm-hmm.
been thoroughly disappointed in.
Yeah, man.
And I've had $4 cigars that are better than $20
Yeah,
cigars.
yeah.
So and I think one of the things in my journey that I've noticed is as the more for the guy that smokes a cigar a month, a $4 stick might hit his palate just perfect and will never need anything more than that because he never smokes
Mm-hmm.
over $4, over one or two a month, if that. I think the more you smoke, your palate naturally wants a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more.
Yeah, man.
You don't start virgin cigar smoking at $20. And if you do, more power to you, but you're not going to understand. It's kind of all right for those. It's kind of like I'm 40. Okay, if everybody knows, I just turned 40 this year. Kids don't know what the fuck video games are today, and it's that same thing. They don't know Super Nintendo. They have no appreciation for Nintendo. They have no appreciation for where it came from.
Yep.
And if you start your palate at 20, you almost can't go backwards, or it's harder to go backwards than does this make sense
Yeah,
in
man.
like building your
Oh,
palate
100%, man.
as you start to go, eventually that $4 cigar is gonna go, I love you, but I want a little bit more. I want a
100%.
little bit more.
100%, dude. And I think, you really you hit the nail on the head there, man. But I mean, I think we both agree to it. There's a couple. If you know what you're doing, man, and you find the right brands, you can find some good value sticks out there. There's some hidden gems that are good prices. Um, Kiravari and weird brands like that. I mean, stuff that maybe not everyone's heard of, but they got good $8, $9 sticks, dude, or whatever, and that's in Colorado. And it's like, you know, I think I think at the end of the day, really though, it comes down to just like what is the value that you're willing to spend on a cigar, and you know where can you fit that in with the best experience you can. Like I said, I'd rather smoke one really good cigar a week than three that I just kind of enjoy, that I'm just smoking to smoke, dude. Same thing with like a beer or a whiskey, dude. Like I always had the mindset that like, maybe when I was in high school or college, and there's times, dude, where I just want to get, drunk with my boys on the boat, dude, or whatever while we're fishing. But at the same time, like most of the time I'm sitting down with a cigar and some bourbon. I want something that's a good bourbon that I'm pairing with a good cigar that's an experience, and it's with my friends that I'm having a good time, man. And I don't want that to be average, man. I don't want the people around me to be average. I don't want the cigars to be average. I don't want the bourbon to be average. I'd rather have this much bourbon, a little pour, and have it be a really good, memorable pour
Because
with my
after the
friends.
second pour,
Yeah,
you can
man.
switch over
Yeah,
to
and then we can
shit,
switch over to whatever,
to
dude. Yeah.
to jack shit,
Yeah, man.
whatever you want.
Yeah, but I'm not there just trying to get fucked up. I'm there for an experience. You know
Correct.
what I'm saying, dude?
So put your retailer hat back on. How there's so many bourbons out there, right? And I bring up bourbon because you were very heavily involved in Colorado Gentlemen's Society with bourbons as
Yep.
well.
Yep.
How did you get somebody like bourbon, a $30 bottle of bourbon versus Maker's Mark, $32? At $2 more, oh man, I know I'm gonna like it. How did you get people from the retail standpoint to take the gamble on $10 for something they know versus $10 for something they don't?
So,
Does that make sense?
yeah, I mean, most of the bourbons that we had.
Oh, I was talking. I used bourbon as an
Oh, as a cigar?
example
Yeah.
because a lot more people, in my opinion, are
Cigar-wise.
willing. Yeah, they're willing to try it. They're willing to buy a bourbon they've never had, and I think a lot more people are less willing to buy a cigar they've never had.
A lot of ball busting and shit talking.
Okay,
No, I'm just kidding, but kind of.
if you know
kind
them.
Kind of. Honestly. if I know them, yes.
So
But,
so
like,
if I have a $10 stick versus a $10 stick, how do you get somebody to go? But I know I'm gonna like this.
So really, at the end of the day, man, I kind of was I didn't really think of comparing cigars in that sense when I sold a cigar. I sold cigars at first that I was like, you know, hey, I'm gonna either sell a guy a boutique cigar or I'm gonna sell him a Padron. And the mindset was like, with the Padron, the only thing he's gonna come back and bitch about is the price. Most guys aren't. Most guys are gonna be like, "Wow, that was a fucking good cigar. You gave me a great recommendation, but do you have something that's a little cheaper?" Boom, I got warped, dude. You know, because at the time they only had like 6, 7 SKUs when I was first beginning, and it's like, yeah, try this hacienda. It's half the price, dude, and you're gonna buy 2 of them. So that was the mindset. Was like, if I show them something that's almost as good, but may not be in that price range, may not be just quite that good, but nearing it, but way
you can
cheaper.
get them to understand
Now they're
that
gonna buy it twice.
is not quality.
It's not quality, and then at the same time, it was also educating the consumer, man. Like, a guy would come in, and I don't care, dude. I'll throw a name out there, dude. A guy would come in and say, "Oh, I want a Gurkha," or "I want a Monte Cristo," or whatever, dude. And it's like, well, dude, Enrique's dad blended the Monte Cristo. You know what I'm saying? But like, hey, also Enrique has his own brand now, and like his dad and him have created a whole new legacy, man. Like, and telling them a story behind it, dude. Not just like, hey, that thing sucks, dude. You should fucking try this. It's like, no. Let me tell you why there's a connection to what you're smoking, and then let me lead you into something else. Let me take you. You wanted the Monte Cristo? We'll try the Matilda Serena. Because it's the same family, but this is their heart and soul right here. This was just them blending for a machine. You know what I'm saying? And see what they're really about. Or say it, because Padron uses Aganorsa's tobacco. Say a guy would like the Padron, but he's like, hey, I don't want to spend that much. Okay, well, let me lead you to Illusione. Let me lead you to Aganorsa. Let me lead you to Warped. Because they've got a little bit of that flavor. It's not all Aganorsa in the Padrones, but they use a little bit of it. And it's like, it's still going to give you a similar body and flavor and strength, but it's not the same, but it's also $8 cheaper. You know what I'm saying? So you can't compare the two.
It's expanding you're making this like this segue into the whole purpose of me asking the question, because you literally brought up it's the story that separates the boutique from the legacies. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. It's the story that you pay for. It's a Padron 1000 series, or I can get this really cool Matilde cigar that's got an amazing story behind with his father. So like when it comes to the same price, the better value is the one with the story
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
there's that connection there.
Mm-hmm.
And so that leads me into how much of this story is required for a boutique. Without it, I don't think they would exist because you just can't throw a stick on the market without something, right?
Yeah, man. And again, I think as a boutique, dude, if you don't have
We'll see you, Cody.
later, Cody. Yeah, if you don't have some sort of story, man. But also if you don't have like I said, I mean, Warped had no story necessarily, as in Kyle had 15 generations of blenders behind him, but he created an idea, and I think at the end of the day, he created a vision with the brand, with the branding of the brand. He created a feel, and I think that's to an extent Opus, dude. Like people smoke Opus because it looks rich, dude. It makes you feel rich when you're smoking an Opus. You can say I'm smoking an Opus, dude. I mean, it's just it's the vibe of the brand that he created, man. It's a good cigar too, but like he created a idea behind what an Opus is. You know what I'm saying, man? And I think that's where, even if you don't have a story, if you have a great enough idea and a great enough plan and a great enough cigar that's unique, it can work. But again, as a retailer, you have to have some tie-in. Hey, you like Illusione. Well, hey, let me show you the Warped because they use Aganorsa tobacco. Oh, like now Kyle's making a bunch of new stuff out of Naxa, and that's a selling point I'll bring into a store that I know does well with Dunbarton. I'm like, hey, dude, there's a bunch of stuff made at Dunbarton's factory made out of Naxa. You should try these because I know you kill it with Dunbarton. So try this Naxa stuff too. It's gonna do really well. And then they can go to their customer and be like, hey, you know what? Your shit at Dunbarton's made at Naxa. Guess what? We got another brand with some Naxa stuff in here. You should try it, dude.
So you took
You
a
know?
little different approach. Actually, you took a more of a geeky approach with setting people up with cigars. Most of the time, whenever I've heard people set people up, it's never gone to the down to the tobacco level of, hey, this brand uses very similar, if not also pieces of this brand's tobacco. Most of the time it's, you like a fuller body, you like a little pepper. Here, this is also kind of a fuller body, little pepper. So is matching, that's a very unique way.
Because then
And
you
again,
can-
that's a super geeky way to introduce
Yeah.
somebody, but I love it.
But then you're dialing it in even further after that. So
Because
it's like,
now you're allowing people to actually not just
Learn.
pick brands, but pick factories.
And learn.
And that factory might roll for 20 brands.
Exactly.
So now all
Exactly.
you did was open somebody
You're
up
educating
to
them, dude.
a swath of
Yes.
brands.
Yes. And then, dude, if that, like, dude,
That is fucking interesting.
and over time, certain stores, like, dude, at Tobacco Leaf, man, we built, because so many people started liking Aganorsa shit, dude, we had literally, at a point, dude, every single brand that was produced by Aganorsa, basically, dude.
Well,
Like,
Tobacco Leaf's the Aganorsa store, Colorado.
it was, but like, dude,
Still
but
is.
it wasn't even like us like going to these brands being like we need them. It was because we had educated those customers like that, and then they would smoke a bunch of these brands and be like, "Fuck, well, have you heard of this new Aganorsa brand?" Or like, "These guys just made a new stick with Aganorsa tobacco. Can we get it?" And like, then it became a cult following in that store of the members, dude. It wasn't even the salespeople or the reps or anything on that. It was organically just grown in that store to where, like you said, all the brands now were,
Had
they
some
had
kind of a tie.
had a bunch of tie-ins, and then you could easily, as a salesman in that store, lead people around and be like, "Oh, well, fuck, you like these 3 brands? Well, shit, I got 10 other brands that have really similar tobacco," and then you dial it in even further, where, okay, well, what is it that you smoke from Illusione or Warped? Oh, you smoke a Maduro. Well, guess what? Illusione's got a Maduro too, and it's Aganorsa tobacco. So, but it's Dion blending it. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's gonna have its own uniqueness, but at the end of the day, it's a similar body and profile and strength and what you're used to. is gonna be familiar to you in this cigar, you know, and
That's a very interesting approach. I don't know that I've ever heard of, I don't know that I've ever had a tobacconist come at me from a manufacturer driven cigar selection versus equality of body or strength or pepper.
hmm
That is because you are very much bringing people into being open to trying new stuff because it's made at a manufacturer, even though it might not be that brand,
yeah,
but it's coming out of that factory.
yeah,
So
man.
you're willing to give it a shot because you kind of know you like that tobacco.
See, I
That's
correlate.
very interesting.
I correlate that to like, you know, think about wines or beers or things like bourbons, you know, it's like there's a lot of brands technically out of Buffalo Trace or whatever, a lot of labels out of Buffalo Trace,
Tons.
but they
I
only have
couldn't
two
name any
mash
of them.
bills. All of those are made out of two mash bills, dude. Like
Different levels of that mash, yeah.
Weller and Pappy
Yep.
are the same fucking thing, dude. It's
Same mash,
but
just different.
one's a honey barrel. You know, one was
Mm.
aged in the right spot of that rick house and it turned out perfect. One was mids. It was good, but it wasn't crazy good. So they didn't keep it aging. And when they pulled that bung, they were like, "Oh, this is as good as this one's gonna get. Bottle it." Some of them they sat down for a little longer because like this is good, but it's gonna be even better in 2 years. You know, and but like I said, that's beyond it. It's at the end of the day, if you know you like Buffalo Trace because they're all similar mashes, you're probably gonna like everything from Buffalo Trace, dude. Whether it's this blender making some shit with Buffalo Trace or it's this blender making it, there's only two blends. Now, yeah, you can create a lot through the aging process of what's happening where
And
it's in the rick and
mixing.
all kinds of
And
yeah,
mixing.
all that shit. But like again, what you're taking down is the essence of what that profile is, dude. And if you like that, you're probably gonna like the other guy that's blending with their stuff. It doesn't mean every time you are, but dude, it gets down to a much more nitty gritty like level of finding out not only what someone likes, dude, because I was again I wanted to lead people to the right thing, man, and I wanted them to have a good experience, but it led into educating them too about what they were smoking, man, even as a new guy, and that kind of ties into the story, man, you know, because then you can tie in more story where they start to like Aganorsa or they start to like Naxa
Well,
or
yeah,
whatever, and then
because
you
they
can tell
start to
them,
associate Aganorsa as a factory, not just a brand.
yeah,
And most people don't, unless you're super geeky and been around cigars for a long time, don't realize Aganorsa before Terrence really wasn't Aganorsa.
no, exactly,
They
dude.
were
Casa
they
Fernandez.
were a Placencia style factory without a brand,
Yep.
or not
They had
without a
Casa
brand,
Fernandez,
but
but they
that
weren't
wasn't
marketing
what
the
it
brand.
was,
They
and that
weren't
was also
marketing it.
kind of more budget
Yeah.
at that time.
Oh yeah, and they were not marketing that,
No,
dude. It was mainly white label for
no,
everyone
yeah,
else, dude.
100%. It had nothing to do with the tobacco quality, but that's I really like that. But you gotta, and that's where I wasn't going to ask this, but it leads me into it. That's where having a tobacconist versus an employee makes a difference.
Yeah, man.
Because a tobacconist knows what you know
Yeah, man.
in the factories, in this, and the this, and the that.
Well, but then, like I said too, man, you can tie the story into once they like, you know, they like Naxa. Okay, you like Dunbarton, you like these warp sticks that are
Hey,
coming out.
Patrick.
Now let me tell you a story about Naxa, dude, because guess what? I know this guy in the factory. And then they remember that brand in the factory and they remember everything about it. Or, you know, you show them some video of Jeremy in his bear outfit blending a cigar, dude, acting a fool, you know, or whatever.
Well, yeah,
Dude.
because now you're teaching.
Yeah, man.
You're teaching beyond the brand.
Yeah, man. And now they have a story and now they have a tie to it, man. And now they have a story that they're gonna sit there and dude, like I said, man, this is like one of the most epic fucking stories as a salesman that I ever had. But we had a guy, he had no sense of now he had a brain I think tumor or aneurysm, I can't remember what it was. But he had to get a part of his brain removed from it, dude. And he lost all of his
Probably a tumor.
yeah, he had all of his sense of taste and smell gone when they removed the tumor. So this guy could not literally, like, you could give him a jalapeno pepper or you could give him like sugar. He would not be able to tell the difference between the two at all. Um, and but he had a shit ton of money, dude. And mostly he just liked to flex, you know. Really good guy, but you know, he had a lot of money, dude. He wanted to smoke what was nice just because
He could.
that's where he was at, dude.
Label
And
smoker.
yeah, he was a label smoker. But because of that, man, like I go up to him one day with a Padron 90, dude. You know, they come in the tubes, you know. And I was full on joking around with this guy, man. I'm like, I open
You told me that.
yes. Open the tube. I put it underneath of his nose, man, as I open it, and I said, "You smell that? That's the air from Nicaragua in that tube." Yep. Yep. Opens the tube. He smells it. Dude, that guy sat there for years in that lounge. I would walk in and he would be telling people he would get excited every day to go up to some new person and open a tube and, dude, do you smell that? That's the air from Nicaragua. Like, you know what I'm saying? But like those are the like weird little stories. Like, dude, you get a but like that's a bullshit story. But if you give a guy a real story too, man, like something that's actually got substance to it, you know, like Enrique's story with his dad or something. Dude, then they sit down in the lounge and they talk about that every time, man. And they tell people, hey, did you try Enrique's dad's cigar or whatever, dude? You know what I'm saying? But like, you know, even something as simple as the air from the tube, man. Like that guy sat there for 3 years selling Padrones to people in that lounge that didn't even like want to smoke a Padrone because they wanted to smell the air from Nicaragua on their cigar, dude.
I gotta say, there to his but there might have been some leftover Nicaraguan air
Yeah.
in that tubo.
There might have been, dude. But it got him high, dude. Every time that shit got him high, man. So
I mean, what like? But again, though, it's not the lot. It was fun for him.
yeah.
Like
He knew I was bullshitting him,
Oh,
dude.
well, I'm sure, but it was also kind of like a dad's cigar joke.
It was, dude. It was a
Right?
dad's cigar joke, dude. That's what it
y-
became, dude.
You know, my grandfather. We used to go down to Greektown in Chicago. I know I don't look like it, guys, but I am Greek. Um, most predominant thing in me is Greek. I'm at least 25%. But
You do
anyways,
look Greek.
well, I don't have that level of hair coverage. Thank God.
That's true, though.
You look at my
That's true.
brother. My brother's got a wool coat 24/7,
Wolfman.
365.
Wolfman.
Oh, he's like Robin Williams level of hair coverage.
Jesus.
But anyways, you know, he used to tell us we used to go down to Greektown for every Christmas. We'd go and buy like bread, the tomatas, the kalamatas, and stuff like that. And he used to tell us, "Don't smell the bread; it'd take all the smell out of it." Now, obviously, that's not true.
fucking hilarious.
But
Yeah,
like we
that,
would,
that same sort of
but like
dad
it would
joke,
always
dude.
be
It's that
fun,
same
right?
sort of shit,
Because he'd
dude.
catch us, because then we would be like,
Be smelling
you're
that
like, oh,
shit, dude. Yep.
wrap it up.
Yep.
You're gonna take all the
Yep.
smell. You know,
Yep.
it's part of that fun. So now you created a game and a joke and something for him to have fun with,
Yeah, man.
and that's the experience. That's really what that connection is.
That's what cigars is, man, is just having fun, dude. Like at the end of the day, that's what he couldn't smell and taste either. He couldn't even smell the difference between the Colorado air and the Nicaraguan air, dude. But he loved it, man. Like that was something because he couldn't taste and smell. I think it gave him something to like connect more with the cigar, and it was fun for him, man. Like and I think at the end of the day, man, whether you're smoking a $2 stick, dude, or a $150 cigar, are you enjoying your experience and are you having fun, man? Like are you you know that it's just about enjoying yourself with the cigar, man.
100%. You
Yeah.
have to. It's also about not taking the cigar serious,
Mhm.
right? Because I mean, let's just be very honest. It's rolled up tobacco. It's rolled up tobacco and placed in the right way that tastes good. But the reality of it is it's rolled up dry leaves.
Yeah, man.
And the experience around the cigar itself could 100% change that cigar.
Fucking Patrick.
Yeah.
What's up, Patrick?
What's going on, Patrick? That could 100% change the feel of that cigar. You know, as somebody that's worked in a lounge, part of being in that lounge is cultivating the environment for people to be able to have a minimum wage job all the way up to a millionaire in the same level of
Yeah,
surroundings,
man.
and nobody cares.
It's the great equalizer.
Exactly.
You
So
know.
what has been like, what has been one of your really cool experiences to kind of see like a mass mingling of people in a lounge where you're like, oh, there's a lot of highly educated, there's a lot of no college. I mean, like what has been your experience in that?
You
Does that
know,
make sense?
yeah, man. I mean, I think there's a lot of lounges, dude. There's a lot in every state that I go to, man. There's particular lounges that I love because they have such diversity. Um, but I think that really, at the end of the day, and I don't need to name names, but I mean,
No.
it's just, at the end of the day, man. I think that there's certain places you walk in, man, and it's just a welcoming. Everyone's happy to have everyone there, man. Everyone's there to enjoy themselves.
A
It's a
lounge is
positive,
definitely most of the time.
yeah, positive energy, man. Good vibes, dude. Everyone's, maybe they're busting balls, maybe they're just telling jokes, dude. But like, that's what that's about, man. Is cultivating that experience, but at the same time, I think that's what's cool is like, there's very few places, man. If you go to a high end bar, it's high end people. A guy that goes to Churchill's every day downtown isn't the guy that's gonna go to your dive bar, dude. And spend $1 on pickle shots, dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, and usually the guy that's spending $1 on pickle shots isn't gonna end up in Churchill's spending $40
A
on an old
martini,
fashioned, dude.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, uh, at the end of the day, you have to kind of look at things and realize like cigar industry is such a rare place to where it brings in one roof the guy who's buying the dollar pickle shots
And
and the
the
guy who's drinking fucking Pappy Van Winkle, dude.
yeah,
And
100%.
but what's cool is you'd never know who's who usually, dude. You walk into the lounge and the guy who looks like the guy who's drinking Pappy Van Winkle's drinking the pickle shots. And the guy who fucking drives the McLaren outside looks like a bum, dude, or whatever. And most of them are the most humble people, dude, and like, I'm not dogging on the pickle shot, dude, but I'm just saying it's like, dude, like, most of them dudes that are the millionaires, dude, they're not trying to sit in there and flex that like, oh, hey, I'm better than you or something, dude. Like, most of them are there to network. They're there to have a good time, relax, enjoy themselves, bust some jokes, dude, bust each other's balls, and they're we're all there for the same reason, man. And that's what I think is cool about cigars. Is like it doesn't matter who you are. We're all there to fucking have a good time, man.
Yeah, and I mean we both know somebody really well that drives a McLaren, and he's pretty pompous.
Yep.
So no, love you, Clayton. I'm totally kidding, but no, I mean,
Clayton, dude.
uh, literally one of our friends does
Yeah.
have not the McLaren F1, but
Yep.
it's still a McLaren.
A very nice
still
McLaren.
very very nice.
A very
and
beautiful
that
blue.
fucker will never give me
Yeah.
his keys. Every
Oh,
time
no, dude.
every time I see him, I'm like, give me your fucking keys.
Yeah.
I'm like, one of these days I'm gonna do a reach around. I'm just gonna reach in your pocket and grab them.
Yeah. Clayton is a good dude, man.
I
but
love
not
Clayton.
that good of a dude. He hasn't been that good to me either yet.
I don't know that he lets anybody drive
I
that
don't
thing.
even know if his wife gets to drive that thing, dude.
Probably
Yeah.
not. But that has been kind of like the fun journey that I've had through cigars, as intensely as I've become involved with them over the last several years. Is you'll walk into a lounge and you'll see a guy smoking factory smokes, and maybe that's just what he loves. You with cigars, unlike liquor, I think it's a little easier to judge a book by its cover for wealth when it comes to liquor.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I'm going to go out for a night and I'm having $40 glasses of liquor, I've got money.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But I can have that $20 cigar once every 6 months.
Yeah, man.
And like feel whatever that makes me feel.
Yeah, man.
And then maybe I'm loaded as shit, cheap as fuck, and maybe I only like sub $10 sticks.
Yeah, man.
and that's got nothing. So a cigar lounge is a very bad determiner of being able. You have a better luck of seeing what they get in there and drive away
Yep.
to determine their
I
wealth
would
than
agree.
their
I would
cigars.
agree.
Because so many cigars are just good at $15.
I would agree.
You
I would
know?
agree. I think there's a lot of good cigars at $15, and I think a lot of guys that are wealthy that smoke cigars also. Yeah, you've got your flexers, dude, but I think in my experience, a lot of those guys still want some sort of value. They didn't become millionaires because they were idiots, dude.
No, and to be honest with you, I'm I'm a firm believer in my own profile, my own portfolio, what I smoke. $15 is about my average.
Yeah, man.
Like as far as top end average. I'll go with a 20, but it's got to be something I trust.
Yeah, man.
I'll I don't gamble on Opus. It's got nothing to do with Opus. It's not my wheelhouse.
Yeah, man.
It's they're mild.
Yeah, man.
Like it's just I will gamble on a Solita Red
Hmm.
because I know what I'm getting.
See, I think that's where experience comes in too. To choosing those cigars, though, is you know it's almost the same thing when you're first smoking cigars, man. If you start out with uh and you're adverse to nicotine and you've never smoked or anything, and you
Oh,
start out with a
anything could turn you green.
double Lajero or whatever, dude,
You're screwed.
you're not gonna like cigars, man.
Lennox.
Yeah, you're not gonna like cigars, dude. But like, hey, if you same thing with a $20 cigar, man. If you start out and it's not the right profile and you spent $20 or $30 on it, like you might think $20, $30 cigars are a waste of money, dude. But at the same time, like, man, I've had some 20 and 30 ones that I like, man, I wish I had more boxes of those. I wish I would have had 10 boxes at the time, dude, but those are, like you said, man, it's something it's something you trust. You smoked the box already and you're like, fuck, I
You
need
smoked a
more.
portfolio. You
Yeah.
understand what a $20 cigar in that portfolio
Yeah, man, it's
means.
something you can
So
trust.
let me ask you this. I would have a very hard time, even as a celebratory cigar, spending $100. Last couple years at PCA, I think you would agree with me, have been the years of $100
A lot of
cigars.
$100
Okay,
cigars.
so as somebody that's at the ripe old age of 30 has already 10, 12 years plus a brokerage firm and got a lot of other really cool things coming down the pike for you. Do you think $100 cigar is ever? Let me change this. Do you think a heavy cigar smoker palate outside of like a master blender style palate would ever actually be able to tell the difference between a good 20 and 100?
Nope.
Does that question make sense?
Oh, 100%. I think if you have not smoked a lot of cigars and you do not smoke a lot of cigars.
What's a lot of cigars?
I mean, I'm talking you're smoking at least 2 a day. And honestly, again, you're gonna have to have a really good palate, man. I mean, if your palate isn't a really good palate, if you're one of those guys,
I've smoked $100 cigars, and I will tell you, my palate's not. They were great.
yeah,
I knew they were great,
Yeah.
but my palate was not advanced enough, and I smoked 2, 3 a day to be able to be like, I see the difference.
that's what I think though. Like $100 cigar it is a embodiment of what the company is truly exploring, and maybe it's a experimental kind of thing that they're using, maybe some of the really highly selected or best tobaccos that they can find, small batches of small half pilon or something.
But even at that, though, you're
but-
talking about a very small percentage of even connoisseurs being able to tell the
no,
difference.
I'm fully agreeing. Like, I think that when you're looking at it, dude, unless you are one of those guys, if you're a guy that smokes a cigar and you get 4 flavors out of it, or it's just good or bad to you or whatever, dude, like, man, you are never gonna find the value in a $50 cigar, dude. Like, let alone $100 cigar. But if you really, I mean, if you're that guy that you can smoke a Davidoff, dude, and that's you know, a cigar that you get a lot of different flavors out of, and you're getting nuanced flavors and everything out of a Davidoff, maybe that cigar will be, you know, a little bit more value to you because you can taste these more nuanced flavors. But again, what type of money do you have, dude? Are you rolling in the money, you know, and $100 cigars, you know,
Worth that risk.
what you tip the fucking valet with, dude? Or, you know, is that $100 what you know,
And that
gotta
$100
fix
could
your
also,
car with next week, dude, if it breaks, dude?
and that $100 could be a false sense of enjoyment
Yeah,
because
man.
you spent $100.
Yeah, and
So
I think that's
moral
part
of
of
the
it too.
story is, unless you really know cigars, and please, 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 unless you really truly know cigars, and this is coming from somebody who smokes 3 a day, my palate couldn't tell the difference between I'm not naming brands, between $100 cigar in that brand and a $20 cigar in that brand.
Look, man. If you
Smoke
took,
what you want and enjoy it.
yeah, man. If you took a blind taste test on 100 guys, man, and you took $100
We
stick,
wouldn't do it.
and from the same brand, dude.
Same shape.
Look, I'll throw out any names, dude. Whether it's
100%.
Dunbarton's Unicorn or it's Padron's fucking Fuente collab thing, dude. It's $200 a stick, dude, in Colorado. You know, you can look at those and wow, the legacies of those brands. Like fucking Dunbarton has a massive legacy. Fuente and Padron have massive legacies. But like, if I gave you that Padron Fuente collab, and this is no dog on them, man. Like I think they're both truly special cigars, and the experience of what you're getting with the story of that cigar. It's the story of that cigar that's cool.
That's what you're paying
You're
for.
paying for part of a story with that cigar.
And for everybody that's smoking the $100 or even the $200, enjoy it for the story and the process behind it, knowing full well that a $20 cigar probably will hit you the same,
Probably beat it in a blind.
but you're smoking the story behind the cigar and
Yeah.
the prestige, and that is, in my opinion, where I would be smoking $100 cigars to go, this is $100. That is where I would go pinky up, brand, labeled. It's $100
The
cigar.
$100 cigar to me, man, is like you bust out
Flashy.
one of those Fuente collabs or whatever.
Yeah.
Dude, and like you might like, dude, probably the 5 guys that you know you busted out with, dude. You know, it's your boy's wedding or fucking something like that, dude. But it's like, or whatever, man. Your boy just had a kid or something, and it's you and your 4 boys that have all hung out since you were kids, and you're it's
You're
me,
smoking the occasion.
it's me, and it's like, you know what, dude? I have these for just to highlight how special of an occasion this is, and the story behind the cigar is cool, but like, we might all smoke this cigar and wish we had just bought 5 fucking regular Padron 1926s. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, would we remember those 5 Padron 1926s the
No.
same way that, hey, you just had a kid and we smoked a $200 fucking stick for your kid's birthday or
Yes.
birth, and it's like,
Yes.
and it's this story of this one-off rare
Yes.
stick that was only made one time, and
Yep.
it was the whole story of it.
Yep.
And you have the whole story to tell with the story
And you had a
of the
one-off
kid
experience,
and the
your
memory.
kid being,
That's what a
100%.
$100 cigar should be.
Yes.
I think. But
$100 cigar should not represent the
Yeah.
cigar. It should
No.
represent the
man.
story,
Yeah, man.
the experience behind
Yeah.
smoking it,
Yeah, man.
and everything involved with that.
Yeah, man.
Because a $100 cigar is not worth $100 without the
Story.
story.
Yeah, man.
Oh man,
The
do you remember when we
experience,
bought
dude.
those 5 unicorns,
Yeah,
dude?
man.
We had a great time in
Yeah,
that
man.
weekend.
That's what I'm
You know,
saying.
that's where you're gonna remember, because it's the same with bourbon. You remember when we got that
Yeah, man.
when we got that nice bottle of scotch or
Yep.
this bottle of bourbon,
Yeah, man.
and that's where I try to tell people that's what $100 cigar
Yeah,
is
man.
for.
That's what it is.
$100 cigar is a memory maker. It's not gonna change your life.
Nah.
It's a memory maker.
It's a memory, and let me say this too, dude. Like, just to back that up, man. Like, I've also had fucking $10 sticks that fucking
100%.
I was with the right people, dude.
Absolutely.
And it was more memorable than a fucking $200 stick that I smoked, dude. I think it's the experience, man, and who you're with, dude. But like, really, that's the value in those sticks is it's the flex of something, but it's the memories with the flex, man. It's
I agree.
hey, we flexed because it was your kid's birth, or you got married or whatever, dude. We
bought
just
a bunch.
flexed the flex because fucking we can, because let's celebrate for your fucking, whatever, dude. Like,
hell yeah.
and that's all that is, man. You know, it's
that is $100 cigar.
yeah, that's all it should
and
be,
that's
man.
all it. Yes,
all it
I
be,
totally agree. So, Paul, I'm gonna take a chance at this, and I'm gonna see if the tobacconist over here agrees with me. I'm not gonna take a chance at the Ouzo because that could have a lot of seasonings on it. But I will say, if I'm gonna take a shot at the baklava, I'm gonna say either a Tibet Dolce or a Java.
If you're going flavored, yeah.
Well, you would almost have to for something.
What would be
like
your
that.
non-flavored though?
It would have to be a Connecticut.
Yeah.
It would have.
I think a sober mesa would go really good.
Yeah, a brulee blue.
Yeah, brulee
blue.
I think Colmena would go very well.
Your Flourish would go well.
Flourish
it gives
would go
just
very
a little
well.
little bit of extra spice in it.
Flourish would go well.
It would go well.
Those would be some of my. I'm on him with the Ouzo, dude. I think Ouzo could. I think Ouzo is something that it's so complex, man, that it would almost depend on what you had eaten, what time of day it was, and who you are, and what
plus
you
Ouzo's
like.
not the main one, so you'd have to figure out if there's a meat, if there's a lamb with it. Man. Yeah. If there's a lamb with it, I'd probably pick a heavier bodied cigar.
Yep.
Just because lamb is kind of picks up the flavoring of what it's around, and lamb has a tendency to be a little bit more on the gamier side, which I love lamb. But if I'm going to choose baklava and I'm going to go with a dessert cigar to match the baklava, I'm going to choose a real mild bourbon.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to choose either a Tibet Dolce or a Java, or if I'm going to go non-flavored, it's going to be in that champagne, mild, creamy. The brulee blue would go well.
Yep.
Something along those lines, I would say. But definitely would have to be a Connecticut. To go dessert, you'd have to go Connecticut.
I would agree. I mean, and that's where I think, like I said, man, that brulee, I think.
I think the brulee would. Moral of the story tonight is he really wants to rep for Steve. And
come on now.
I know I can't. I have no pull in anybody. I can't tell you how many people reach out to me on a daily. Dude. Listen. I have a business relationship with these people. Like I can call them.
I have to use my opportunities that you give me to beg him for a spot, dude. One of the only companies I would, dude. Maybe if Padron opens up some rep spots, I'd beg them too. But
they don't have reps.
That's why if they opened one up, I'd beg them too. But those would be about it, dude.
So here in closing, John, couldn't have asked for a better person to ask this question, or couldn't have had a better person to ask. What is your biggest cigar lounge pet peeve?
I think this is a multi-answer, but it all plays into the same idea. Basically, I think just I think people that are unaware, unaware people, dude, of what lounge etiquette is. You know what I'm saying?
So he's coming from the customer standpoint instead of like the ashtrays not being empty.
Yeah, man. I mean, dude. But I spent a lot of time in the lounge as an employee even, dude. And it's like, man, the dude that fucking he's on his speaker phone, dude, talking at max volume, dude. And there's like 8 guys having a conversation, and this guy's just talking at max volume, dude. Or, a guy that throws his lit cigar into the trash can, dude, and almost lights the trash can on fire.
That's
dude.
The ashtrays for.
Yeah, man. But dude, it's just like it's just like simple shit, but it's like stuff that, man, you got to be an idiot, dude. Like, it's like, dude, go fucking outside and talk on the phone if you want to have it at max speaker.
What's your biggest pet peeve from an operational standpoint when you walk in and you're like, that's just lazy that you guys won't take care of that.
On the lounge side, like on the customers,
On the
talking
lounge
about
side.
customers,
No, on the lounge side.
but like talking about what a customer would do,
No, I'm talking about like, so for instance, for me,
or like other employees in the
like
store.
so like when I walk into a lounge and I don't see any of the ashtrays emptied ever.
Oh yeah,
And they're always
dude,
full. Like, so
that
what's
would be
from an operational
yeah.
standpoint? What is when you walk into a lounge? You're like, dude, I don't want anything to do with this. Look,
Yeah.
look at this. Like the floor's gross. The
Yeah,
walls are
like
gross.
as a rep walking into a store,
Yeah.
I would say it would definitely be things like, I mean, yeah, dude, ashtrays that aren't emptied, man, that's not a good sign. But, you know, I like to look at the humidity in there, man. I like to
Okay.
see if there's mold and shit, dude. Like,
Okay.
dude, if the cigar shop smells like mold or their humidor smells like mold, probably don't want to be in that store, dude,
No, it
because
could
I
get you
don't want
sick.
I don't well yeah, dude, but also like, dude, if someone walks in and they get a moldy stick from that store, they don't just think it's the store, they think it's my brand,
Correct.
and
It's always the brand.
yeah, man, and it's and at the same time I think
What would you know, Patrick? You don't know anything about running a lounge.
yeah, fuck you, Patrick. Hey, fuck yous.
Patrick ran my home base cigar lounge, Smoking Cave, which launched this show. So he knows quite a bit. Plus, he's been in the industry 30 years or close to
Long
it.
time, dude, yeah.
Close to it. I mean,
Long
he's
time.
he's like 90, I think, right?
Patrick's a
Something like
very
that.
old guy.
Patrick's very old.
Some
Very
would say the
old.
oldest.
Some would say the oldest. We love you, brother.
Ancient. But what a good guy. Everyone says he's a good guy. Nobody says bad things about Patrick.
So, what has been, and we'll close the show with this. What has been the biggest difference between a shop and a broker experience for you?
I think as I worked my way through the shop, man, I got to the point where the shop saw the value in what I liked to do, which was, just talking to people, man. And I had the knowledge of the cigars, which I enjoyed the knowledge too. And I think now, hey, I don't have to. I mean, yeah, there's some stores that I'll walk in and I'll stock the box or whatever that's empty on their shelf, dude. But like, that's not my daily grind. I'm not stocking shelves. I'm not cleaning ashtrays or mopping the floor, dude. Like, I just I do what I'm good at now, man. Like, and it's the next step of what we do is now I'm creating cigars. Now I'm selling cigars. Now I'm just going and passing the passion, and that's what I think as a younger guy too is like, yeah, there is those older guys that we were talking about at first that they look at me and they're like, yeah, you're 12. What the fuck are you going to teach me, man? But at the same time, there's a lot of younger kids that come into this industry and have older guys like that as their first experience.
And they don't want the older guys.
And they don't connect with those guys, man. And so it's like, it's good
It's a
to
trade-off.
also be able to connect with the younger guys. And as a younger guy, man, I think my mission in this industry is in every way that I can to continue this industry, man. And by doing that, we have to get younger smokers that, we have to get the right people in our industry that are younger, that are replacing the guys that are leaving the industry, or can't smoke anymore. They're dying and I think that's really what it came down to is like, how can, in one shop, I can only make so much of a difference with that mission. As a rep, I can pass that passion on to many different stores, many different lounges, many different, and it's the idea again, coming back to the idea, it's the idea of what tobacco is, man, and that's what I want to further.
And I think you've done a really good job with it. I mean, you've accomplished a whole lot in your short time in the industry. When I say short time, decade in the industry. And you've got your own brand, you're repping. I would say, you know, this territory, you're probably one of the more successful brokers in this territory. And it's been fun to have you as a friend and see your growth and see where Lumen is. And Lumen is and you're doing it the right way, not bringing out a ton at once. You're bringing out a little bit here, a little bit there, selling it, moving forward. So I think your experience in the industry has taught you a ton as far as how to bring something to
We want to
market.
build the hype, man, and we want to do it in the right way. But at the same time, we want to build the hype, understanding the industry, man, and that's why. Look, dude, all of my cigars they start out as a Toro size. Is that my favorite size? No, I wouldn't make a Toro. If I'm gonna smoke all of the cigars I make, it's not gonna be a Toro. But guess what, dude? That's what everyone wants. That's the most popular size in most shops, dude. Is
It's Toro,
Toro or
Toro
bigger.
Robusto, yeah.
Yeah, and I think understanding the industry, what they wanted blend wise, but also size wise, and then not overextending yourself too quickly. Which again, man, like I've had really good mentors that were open books to me throughout this with Enrique, with Jeremy, with Scott, with Kyle, dude, you know Jake Wyatt too. I mean, and all of these guys, even Rainier, man. I mean, they they've opened themselves and they've opened their numbers and they've opened their mindsets to me and said, "Hey, look, dude, you need to do it this way because I've seen it go bad if you do this or that." And it's like once you talk to a bunch of guys who have done it successfully and there's a pattern in what they're all saying, they're probably not saying that because they want to fuck you or keep you out of the industry. They're saying that because they care about you and they
Correct.
want you to succeed. And,
Yeah.
and you can take it one way or the other if your ego is too big. But at the
Hmm.
same time, if you're there to learn and you really want to be a part of the industry, all of these guys had mentors that taught them stuff, man. And it's like that's what's cool, man, is everything gets passed on and everyone wants to see people succeed for the most part in this industry. And you know I think that really you know you see a lot of these, whether it's a celebrity company or it's just a guy that's gotten into the game because he had the money and cigars sounded cool. you know it's it's a nice idea, man, but like there's the the saying, man, like how do you make a million with cigars, dude?
Start
Start
with
with two,
two.
and like that's because a lot of these people don't understand, man. And like I think again
Do
it
too
comes
much too quick.
yeah, it comes down to the Pete Johnson mindset, man. Like, dude, if you started sweeping the floors and you understand the industry from the bottom floor all the way up, dude, you know what the industry wants, and it's easier to keep your thumb on what the industry is going towards, dude.
And to your point, and with this, we'll close the show. I know somebody. I'll tell you after the show. I won't tell it because I've been asked by him not to say this name publicly. But there's a very very prestigious master blender that won't take the title. You have to give it to him, which I love that. Because nobody should ever take that. That didn't touch tobacco for 6 years while he was learning. He literally first week he thought he was going down to the thing or going down to the factory, and the factory owner looked at him. He goes, "Why the fuck am I going to work with you? I've got 20 guys that forgotten more than you'll ever know.
Yep.
Here's a fucking broom. You're sweeping for a year."
Mm-hmm.
And he swept that floor. He didn't touch tobacco for almost six
Yeah,
years.
man.
And they were not easy on him, but now he's considered one of the greatest blenders out there. And he is, and yet you're 100% right. You start at the bottom, you have much more appreciation for where you're going to go and where you are.
And what I take it down to too, man, is it's like think about the armed forces, man. Like you go into the Marines or the Army, man, they break you down. You might have had a mullet and you might have had a beard, dude, and you might have had this and that, dude. You might be 50 pounds over whatever the fuck, dude. But they're gonna break you down. They're gonna shave that shit off. They're gonna take your hair, your mullet's getting shaved off, bro. You're losing 50 pounds. They're gonna break you down and make you a soldier, man. And that's what that guy did, man. Is like he got broken down and became a soldier. But guess what, dude? You could throw him out in the fucking battlefield and he could fend for himself, man.
Now he's considered one of the greatest one of the
Yeah.
best blenders the last 20, 30
Yeah,
years.
man, exactly, dude. And so, like, dude, you gotta have that same mindset of like, dude, you gotta be willing to get broken down. You gotta be willing to learn, man. And a lot of these guys will teach you if you just open your ears, man. You know.
Absolutely. Well, John, we're getting a lot of we're getting a lot of people that like the show. We had a lot of viewers tonight. We had a lot of
What's up,
comments.
Jeff? Thank you, Jeff.
Jeff, Bruce, Richard, thank you so much. And everybody, next week we obviously will. Who do we have on next week? I never do this, but
Hey,
let's
Bruce,
see.
we aren't picking on you old guys. You know it's the reality.
Love you, bud. Next week, everybody, we have JB from Zeal Cigars on the show. For all of you guys that remember Bradley Reith, really good friend of mine, really good friend of the show, passed away about a year and a half. Well, it would have been beginning of March of last year's when he passed away, March 5th. So we're having JB on. JB now owns the company over at Zeal. That's in your territory, actually. So we're going to have him on next week. But hope everybody had a great time. This is our first broker episode that we're going to be doing throughout the year. I've got a few others lined up. And John, as John knows, always is welcome to come back through and sit in or just jump in the show whenever he wants. And always appreciate him coming on. And you're a wealth of knowledge, and it's fun for me to be schooled by somebody like you, because I take that I take that as I'm 40, I should know more than you, and every time you come around I always seem to learn something new, and that's what keeps that fun. Oh, you are too kind.
I always learn from you too, brother.
You are too kind, brother.
You got a lot of connections that I don't too, man.
You are too kind.
You always tell me some new stuff too, man.
You are too kind. So, well, to everybody watching tonight, thank you so much for joining in here at the Smoking Studios for another live episode of the Rocky Mountain Cigar Show. And until we see you all again, smoke what you like, smoke as often as you can, and have a great, great rest of your week. Bye, everyone.